Chapter 14. We pulled ourselves up onto the stage. Go say something into the microphone while I check out his stuff again, Sam told me. I looked out at the crowd, frozen to the spot. Sam stabbed his finger toward the microphone. I walked over to it on jello legs. Amazin stared at me, his folded arms the size of 2 Goodyear blimps. Hello, I croaked, my mouth at least 6 inches below the microphone. I'd like to introduce. Louder! Someone yelled. Amazin grabbed the microphone. Hey, folks, that squirt over there bet me he can do my act better than I can. A bunch of people laughed. Well, heck, folks, I couldn't turn down the little feller, could I? It might injure his manhood. Some people tissed their disapproval at Amazin's meanness, but others just laughed. Sam was busy examining the handcuffs. My face burned with anger and embarrassment. Hey, if any of you want to place a friendly wager on Tiny Tim over there, I got you covered, Amazin crowed. I'll bet on you, Eddie, a girl yelled. Amazin's eyes scanned the crowd, lighting on a guy in a University of Tennessee jacket. Hey, Billy, hold the bets until I win, buddy. Sure thing, Billy said. He pulled a bill out of his wallet. But my money's on the kid, for 10. The crowd oohed their surprise. Mine too, another guy said, handing some money to Billy. You good for this, Eddie? Eddie scowled. I got it covered. I just hate to see you throwing your money away. More and more people bet, a lot of them on Sam, which made Amazin madder and madder. I haven't got all night, kid, Amazin snapped irritably. Let's see your dumb little show. Sam stopped examining the props. Fine. As soon as I see dumb Big U leave the stage. The crowd laughed. Amazin jumped down into the crowd. Everything okay? I whispered to Sam. K.O. What if I can't pick the lock? Or get in the box, Sam? He smiled at me. I believe in you, Deed. I nodded, too scared to speak. Sam went to the microphone. He stood on his tiptoes, then finally bent it down level with his mouth. Ladies and gentlemen, his voice boomed, I'm the great Sam Deany. Pay no attention to those who pretend to do the great Houdini's most famous escape. I, the great Sam Deany, and my assistant, my partner, the one and only Dee Demento, will show you how it's really done. And now we present the real metamorphosis. I bent down and punched the on button on the tape player. Amazin's tiny music filled the air. Sam opened the trunk and stepped inside. I clicked the handcuffs on him. He lay down, curled up. Deed, he called as I was about to close the lid. What? Remember, we haven't got a lockpick for the handcuffs. You have to use a bobby pin. He pointed to my hair. It is much harder to pick a lock with a bobby pin. I closed the lid and locked the padlock. Then, with every eye on me, I wound the ropes tightly around the trunk. Now what? The screen. I dragged it in front of the trunk. Then I clapped my hands 3 times, just the way Houdini and his wife used to do. I ran behind the screen to find that Sam had already escaped. Quickly, I reached for the bobby pin in my hair to pick his handcuffs. I jiggled the bobby pin in the lock, and it fell apart like butter. Now was the moment. I had to climb in the box. I stared at Sam, a single rivulet of sweat running down my forehead. His eyes held mine. He nodded. I got into the trunk. It was so dark and tiny. I couldn't breathe. You'll be out in just a second, I told myself. Sam is running around the screen now. He'll clap his hands 3 times. Then he'll move the screen. He'll remove the ropes and unlock the padlock, and you'll get out. Just listen for him to clap his hands. Hey, I bet the little kid's ticklish, I heard Amazin hoot to Sam from the other side of the screen. Get your hands off me, I heard Sam yell back. What was happening? Had Amazin jumped up on stage to wreck Sam's trick? But if Sam didn't finish the act, I'd never get out of the trunk. No, that was stupid. Of course I'd get out. Hey, Eddie, take the handcuffs off the kid, I heard someone yell. My heart swelled with panic. Nah, he's such a little Houdini. Let's see him do it himself, Amazin hooted. Amazin had handcuffed Sam. Sam can pick the handcuffs with a bobby pin, I reminded myself. And then I remembered. He didn't have the bobby pin because I had it stuck in the back of my hair. The panic began with a spark at the back of my neck. It caught, spreading like wildfire, blanketing me in sweat. Louder and louder, my heart beat, a deafening pounding in my ears. Breathe, I ordered myself. Keep breathing. In, out, in, out. I had to get out or I would die. There was a way for me to do it too, but if I got out, the trick would be ruined, which would mean no one would give us any money, which would mean I'd never get to my brother's heart. I gulped hard, tasting my own sweat as it ran salty into my mouth. I couldn't give up. I wouldn't. Now it seemed the trunk was my coffin, just like David's coffin, and I couldn't breathe. I was drowning, sucking for air that didn't exist, buried alive as punishment for the awful, terrible thing I had done. Breathe, I ordered myself. In, out, in, out. Suddenly, there was light. Air gushed at me. I drank it in. Sam's hands reached for me, helping me out of the trunk. I stumbled out on shaky legs, still handcuffed. The crowd cheered, whistled, stomped their feet. Sam spun me around, and, our backs to the audience, he quickly pulled the bobby pin from my hair, worked it into the handcuffs, and they fell apart, dangling from my wrist. We turned back to the audience, who clapped and whistled as we bowed together. I'm a helium balloon, I thought crazily, as I grinned ear to ear. A bright red helium balloon. I could fly to the sun, to the stars. I did it. Did Amazin cuff you? Affirmative. So how did you get the cuffs off? I had the bobby pin. Oh, ye of little faith, Sam said, as we bowed again. He lifted his t-shirt, and there were 6 bobby pins stuck to his stomach under a strip of masking tape. A true professional keeps extra bobby pins on him for all emergencies, Sam explained, as we took yet another bow. Looks like you better pay the kids 50 big ones, Billy hooted to Amazin. And then you can settle up with all of us. Clearly, Amazin didn't want to pay us, but with everyone watching, he didn't have a choice. Red-faced, he counted out $50 and handed it to Sam. Then he began to pay off all the people who had bet against him. Quick, pass the hat, Deed, Sam told me. I grabbed the top hat, which lay on stage, and jumped down into the crowd. People began stuffing bills into it, patting me on the back, telling me how terrific Sam and I had been. Amazin was still paying off his debts, looking more furious by the second. Sam was in the middle of a crowd of admirers. You kids were really something, a man told him. I won $10 off Eddie, So this is for you. He handed Sam $5. It was a true pleasure to watch a little feller like you whoop that bully fair and square, another man said, handing Sam more money. More and more people who had bet against Eddie had handed Sam money, while others filled up my hat. Sam stuffed money into all of his pockets, grinning hugely. Someone tugged on my sleeves. I looked down. A little girl with eyes as big as frisbees looked up at me, a red helium balloon in one hand, a scrap of paper and a pencil stub in the other. I love your balloon, I told her. Thanks, she said shyly. Can I have your autograph, miss? Me? Sign an autograph? Yes, me. Didi Demento. It had a certain ring to it. I reached for the pencil and started to sign my name. Those kids over there, I heard Amazin yell. They stole my money from the last show. I looked up. Amazin had 2 cops with him. The cops started for us. I grabbed Sam. Run! We took off, pushing through what was left of the crowd, darting around people to make our getaway. The cops and Amazin were gaining on us. This way, I yelled, tugging Sam. We sprinted toward a thicket of bushes, plowing through them, sticker branches scratching our faces. We didn't steal his money, I said, panting as we ran out onto the sidewalk, turned left, and skirted behind a building. We both stopped, breathing hard. I'm sure the police will be delighted to hear that, Sam said between pants, after they ask us for ID. And then we're ruined, I concluded, as I stuffed the money from the hat into every pocket I had. At any moment, I expected to hear the cops, snarling dogs, even helicopters, like in prison escape movies. What if the cops had found out who we really were? What if no one in the crowd defended us? I was so scared. It's just so easy to bring down a helium balloon. One prick, it's over. Go home, a voice in my head told me. Just give up. And do what? Another voice inside me asked. Bury yourself in the backyard with the baby bird? I looked over at Sam for an answer, only to find that he was looking at me the same way. All right then. I would pretend myself right through the fear. Let me see what I can see, I told Sam. I rounded the corner, hugging my body to the building, then peeked around the other side. Amazin was gone, but the 2 cops were standing not 20 feet from me. They ran out of the carnival, the taller cop said into his walkie-talkie. Just a couple of local kids, I reckon. Over, say what? Eddie lost a bet to them, that's all? Yeah, I copy. That's a big 10-4. We're heading back. Over and out. They turned around and walked away. I waited to make sure they were really gone. Then I hurried back to Sam. Remember, we get 1 phone call, Sam said, his teeth chattering now that he cooled down. And we don't say anything until we talk to our lawyer. I told him what I had heard. Astonishing, Sam said. They still don't know we're runaways. Adults can be amazingly inefficient. I suggest we get on the next bus, and wherever we end up, we'll catch another one to Miami. We skirted the carnival, which was beginning to shut down, and made our way back to the bus depot. But as we approached, there were 2 completely different policemen standing just inside the front doors. I pulled Sam back. If they weren't looking for us before, they are now, I whispered. No way we can get on the bus. The cops spoke to each other. Then one began to walk toward the door. We sprinted back over to the carnival. Things were shutting down now. The games of chance were closed. Daisy the docile donkey was being led into a trailer hitched to a small truck. No music, no colored lights. Everything seemed to signal the end. Maybe it was the end. I was so tired. I sat on a bench. Now what? My teeth chattered. Sam sat next to me, shivering. Being a fugitive is highly overrated. He closed his eyes. A woman in jeans walked over to the man who had just let the donkey into the trailer. Y'all heading out? The man nodded. Thought I might get to Valdosta, Georgia by morning. Got a gig there tomorrow afternoon. Step over here and I'll pay you, the woman said. He walked with her to a nearby bench, where they sat and did business. I looked at Sam. His eyes were still closed. I nudged him hard. Sam! He opened his eyes. I think I've got a plan. Thrilling. Keeping my eye on the man and woman on the bench, I grabbed Sam's hand and we snuck toward the donkey trailer. Daisy the docile donkey was tethered inside. She stared at us. The door hadn't been shut yet. Get in, I told Sam. You're not serious. The woman stood up. So did the man. They shook hands. The man was walking towards us. I pushed Sam into Daisy's trailer. We scrambled to the back, burying ourselves under the smelly hay, as far from Daisy as we could get, which wasn't very far. Okay, Daisy girl, we're heading the road, the man said, as he slammed the door of the trailer shut. Slowly, I peeked out of the straw. I spit some out of my mouth. Sam's head peeked up too. Odd slants of light seeped in through the boards of the door. The truck started up. Daisy whisked her tail practically in our faces. We were both too petrified to speak or to move. The trailer pulled out of the fair and onto the streets of Clarksville. Nice, Daisy, I crooned, my voice shaking with fear. Sweet Daisy. We waited. Daisy's tail swished again. She didn't seem to mind us. This might work, Sam said cautiously. I relaxed a little. We traveled in silence for another 5 minutes. Daisy was as docile as her name. This is most excellent, Sam decided, as we both relaxed some more. We're going to some place called Valdosta. Geography was never my strong suit. Sam yawned. He closed his eyes. It's in Georgia, somewhere. I rubbed my arms. No one will be looking for us in Georgia. Sam's eyes sprang open. Did you ever tell Enid where we were going? I thought a minute. I think I said that Granny lives near Disney World. Disney World? I nodded. I guess it was stupid, but... Deed, you are a genius. I am? It's so perfect. He chortled. Don't you see? That's where everyone's going to look for us. 2 kids, best friends. One is unbelievably depressed, so they use their piggy bank money in Hanukkah gelt to take a bus from Wisconsin to Disney World. I made a face. Who'd believe that? Adults, Sam said. It's how their minds work. We traveled in silence for a while. Deed? Remember what I told you on the Ferris wheel? About feeling like a coward? Uh-huh. I don't feel like such a coward anymore. I could almost feel Sam smiling in the dark. Me neither, I said. I got in the box. I always knew you could, Deed. Yeah, but now I know I can. The moving trailer began to lull me to sleep, despite how cold it was. Sam's stomach growled. You know, even that PB swirl you had sounds good right about now. Daisy's stomach made the same noise. She swished her tail again, harder, and kicked out a hind leg. Uh, donkeys don't eat people, do they, Sam? Only if they're really, really hungry. I eyed Daisy nervously. Let's hope Daisy ate dinner then. Sam looked directly up at Daisy's hind end. "'Deed," he said. "Let's hope she didn't."